I am 94, and the person who understood me better than anyone else is gone. She left quietly, without drama, and I only realized afterward how much of myself I had kept for her. I never thought I would be this old, sitting here with nothing but the memory of her voice, the weight of conversations that will never be repeated. I remember mornings when I would wake before anyone else, the sun just creeping through the blinds, and I would make coffee for her, not because she asked, but because I wanted to see her smile at something ordinary. We had a rhythm, simple and precise, and I never thought to note its fragility. In my younger years, the thought of losing her seemed impossible. It was the kind of thing I assumed would wait until I was ready, whenever that might have been. I grew up believing that life would always stretch ahead, that there would be time for the small, quiet things. In my 20s, I worked long hours, convinced that diligence would prove something about me, that it would make life meaningful. I built a routine around tasks, not people. She would call in the evenings, her voice soft, asking about my day, and I would answer briefly, distracted, as if I had to get to the next responsibility. I thought it was enough that I was there, that I was present in the room. But I wasn't really. We met in a library, both reaching for the same worn copy of some old novel I can barely name now. She laughed and I laughed, and it felt immediate, like recognition. There was no grand declaration, no fireworks, just a quiet knowing. And for years that quiet knowing was enough. She could read me like a page, and I trusted her completely, in ways I trusted no one else. But I took it for granted. I believed that she would always be there, waiting. The cost came slowly. The phone calls I didn't return because I was busy. The visits I postponed because I had errands, because work was important, because I could not see the invisible threading of our lives unraveling. It was never one big mistake, just a series of tiny absences, minor delays that I convinced myself didn't matter. Yet each one accumulated, like water seeping through cracks in stone, until the foundation of what we had was quietly hollowed. I remember a winter when she caught a cold. I told her I would visit, but I didn't. Something else needed attention, bills, appointments, a neighbor's request. By the time I realized she needed me in a real way, she was gone. Pneumonia, complications, something ordinary that turned final. I arrived at the hospital too late to say more than a whisper, her hand cold in mine, her eyes almost closed. She tried to smile, and I tried to smile back, but it was hollow. I had wasted decades thinking tomorrow was always ours. Now I sit with the permanence of that absence. There is no way to return to those mornings, no way to refill the conversations we never had, the stories I never fully listened to, the laughter that will never again echo in a room we shared. I see the rooms of my house and they feel emptier than ever before. Objects remain, familiar and useless, like photographs without faces. I often wonder what she would say if she could see me now. Would she chide me gently, or simply sigh and turn away, disappointed not in the person I am, but in the moments we lost together? I know there is nothing to salvage. The understanding, the companionship, the shared recognition of ourselves. We cannot reclaim it. Time does not wait, and it does not bend to regret. When I think of her, I do not think of grand gestures. I think of quiet mornings, coffee cups on the windowsill, the way her eyes crinkled when she smiled, the sound of her voice reading aloud a paragraph from a book we both loved. These small fragments are all that remain, and they're enough to break me every single day. I speak to you now, whoever listens, not to warn or instruct, but simply to share this truth. We assume there is always more time. We believe we can defer attention, affection, presence, and sometimes we are wrong. Sometimes the person who understands us, who holds the mirror to our lives, can leave before we realize how deeply we needed them. I do not live in hope of restoration. That door is closed. But I linger in the memory, holding it gently, like something fragile and sacred. And perhaps this is all we can do when life has taken its final toll, not to grasp, not to chase, but to remember with care. Nights are hardest. The quiet stretches longer, and I speak to the empty room as if she were there, asking questions, seeking the comfort of her familiar responses. I know she cannot answer, and still I continue. Perhaps because I must, perhaps because it is the only way to keep her here at all. I have learned, painfully, that the world is indifferent to absence. The people around me continue with their lives, their own routines, their own choices, and I too continue, though slower, quieter, less sure of my place. Mortality presses close. I can feel it in my bones, in the way breath comes easier in some moments and labors in others. I will die without her, as I have lived without fully appreciating her. And that is the truth I carry. Not a lesson for the young, not a parable, just the unvarnished reality of a life that missed the one connection that mattered most. If you hear me, I wish only to confess this. Do not assume that understanding is endless, that presence is guaranteed. Speak, listen, linger in the small ways. Do not wait as I waited. Because the person who will hold the reflection of your life close may leave before you see it, and when they do, you cannot call them back. I will sit with this knowledge for whatever time remains to me. I do not expect forgiveness from her or from anyone else. I do not seek solace. I simply exist, recalling her smile, remembering her voice, keeping her here, in the quiet spaces where nothing else fits. And that is all I can do. The rest, the laughter, the mornings, the small shared silences, that is gone, permanently. And I will live with that, in its unrelenting stillness, until the end.